Hi everyone, my name is Oshien. I am a family medicine doctor currently in Milton, Ontario, Canada. In this video, I will be going over my journey of getting into med school. So I went to med school in the US, so I'll primarily be talking about the US pathway. Having said that, both the Canadian and the US streams are quite similar, and there's no reason why you couldn't apply to both together. So I've made another video discussing the differences between the US and the Canadian pathway, and I'll make sure to link the video down below. So if you're interested in the Canadian stream as well, make sure to check out that video. So moving right along, I've divided this video into 3 separate sections, and I'll be talking about high school, undergrad, and the actual med school application. So let's talk about high school. What to do in high school? Honestly, nothing. When I was in high school, I had no idea that I wanted to go to med school, so I didn't go out of my way to do anything specific, and you don't have to. Having said that though, there are in your med school application requirements, if you take a look at it, there is a section for volunteer. So any extracurricular activities that you do in high school actually count towards that portion, and that's a fantastic thing. That's a great category that you can boost up your application with. So if you do things like sports teams or debate competitions or part of any high school clubs, if you are part of, I don't know, an art competition, even if you didn't win but you participated in it, all of that counts towards your extracurricular activities, and it can be added on to your volunteer stuff. So I would advise you to make sure to make a document. It can be either on your phone or on your laptop, and it doesn't have to be extensive. It can honestly just be a Word document. Write down exactly what you did. So say badminton team, write down the years that you were active in that club. So grades 9 to 11, years, I don't know, 2023 to 2025, and exactly what your position was. So singles, doubles, write down the name of the organizer or the teacher who was in charge of the club. And then if you won any competitions, any games, if you placed second, third, whatever, or even if you just participated in any competitions, write down the name of that competition and what your result was. So say you went to some provincial championship, but you didn't win anything. Great, that's fine. Just write down participated in the provincial championship in grade 11. Yay! Now, do grades matter in high school? Not in the long term. It may help you get into the undergrad degree that you want. So in that regard, absolutely important. And it kind of makes sure that you have a certain type of work ethic. But there have been students that were absolutely bad high school students, did pretty okay in undergrad, and then were excellent med students. So it's not the end of the world if you weren't scoring that high in high school. It's okay, honestly. So moving right along, let's talk about undergrad. The number one question that I get asked is, what degree should I be doing for, to eventually apply to med school? It does not matter. It honestly does not matter what degree you decided to do. You could be an engineer, like you do an engineering degree. You could be biomedical sciences, you could be doing life sciences, you could be at OCAD doing a graphic design degree, like whatever your heart desires, do that. On your screen right now, I've put up a list of med school application requirements, and as you can see, the number one thing that the school asks for is there are certain required courses that you have to complete. And as you can see, they are, your physics, your biology, organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry. All of these are very specific science courses. Now, does that mean you absolutely have to do a science degree? No, it does not. You absolutely do not have to do a science degree. In fact, a lot of my friends were in non-science degrees. They were from a commerce background or business background, engineering background, pharmacy, a lot of things that were not strictly life sciences. And the only thing I will say is the science degrees make it a teensy bit easier for you to take those required courses because they're built into the curriculum already. So you won't have to go out of your way to take an inorganic science class. But does that mean you have to sort of fixate on a life sciences degree? No. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you would rather do engineering, great, go for it, you know. Yeah, so it's not required. The required courses are definitely required. As there are some schools, a lot of schools in the US that also require some other courses, so things like statistics, a year of calculus. They may ask for biochem. Some of them ask for a writing course or like an English course. So it really depends on, make a list of the schools that you want to apply to eventually, and see what other requirements they have. Do you have to take them during your actual undergrad degree? No, you can take them as summer courses. You can take them after undergrad. There are plenty of ways for you to finish your required courses. It does not have to be as part of your individual degree. It's easier for sure, but again, there are multiple ways for you to finish your required courses. Moving on to what university to apply to. Now, I went to University of Toronto, the downtown campus or St. George campus. Would I recommend that people go to that university? It was a great experience because I made some fantastic friends. I don't think it was very helpful in getting me to med school necessarily. The things that you want to look for in an undergrad or in a university or a college is small class sizes, good professors that are known to be good. So one of the resources that you can use is ratemyprof.com if it's still active. And if they have their own med school, it's another big one. So that's that. Let's talk about some other individual requirements for med school. On your screen now you can see we talked about the required courses already. Let's talk about volunteer. We've talked about this briefly during the high school section already. It's the exact same. I would say be part of clubs in undergrad because that will be super important. It's not so much of a question of should I do it or not. No, do it because it will be important. In that time, try to get some experience shadowing as well. Is it extremely important? No. But if you have some experience with medical settings, US applications tend to be stronger with that experience in place. So I would say go ahead, approach a hospital or even a clinic and say, hey, can I shadow you? And it can be different things. It doesn't have to be that you're roaming around with a doctor all the time. If you are not able to get that experience, that's absolutely okay. It doesn't have to be that. You'll find that in hospitals, there are a lot of volunteers wheeling patients around, helping out in the cafeteria. They go to read books to kids. They go to provide story time. If you are musically talented, you can be a musician that goes in for music therapy. There are plenty of ways to volunteer in a medical setting. It doesn't necessarily have to be you working with or for a doctor. You can work in a pharmacy. You can be a scribe. A lot of ways of getting that experience in a medical setting. So that's the volunteer stuff. Moving right along to your GPA and your MCAT. Those two things are what I would say are just as important as finishing your required courses. think of a GPA of 3.4 and above for US schools. If you want to be competitive, then 3.6 and above. For MCAT, if you can have a score above 500, good for you. If you can have a score above 510, competitive. So have people gotten in with a GPA of, say, 3.2 and an MCAT score of 5.505? Yeah, they have. It does not mean that combination does not mean that you're not gonna get in. It just means that you are not in that competitive range. It means you've just barely passed their screening stage. And after that, the rest of your application has to be super strong for them to give you an interview. So how to get a good MCAT score, how to get a good GPA in undergrad. The GPA, if you're not taking the courses or a degree that you enjoy, it's very unlikely that you'll do well. I'll be honest. If you don't enjoy biochem, chances are you're not going to do good in a biochem degree. Those are just facts. Unless you are super smart and know how to study and know how to give tests and all of that, you are just not going to do well. So take something that you think you will enjoy and always have something fun outside of school as well, just to kind of help you relax. If you're not doing well in a certain course, it's okay to drop it. I know that sounds crazy, but oh my God, drop it. Do not let that affect your GPA. I took a physics course, same physics course, 3 times because I just could not figure out how. I was understanding the material pretty okay, I thought. And then the midterm would come and oh my God, I could not do well in it. And not to say that I was failing, but I was so close to failing. I think I was getting 58%, 62%. I just couldn't figure out how to take the exam and do well. And so I dropped it. Then I took it again the next semester, dropped it again. I tried a different professor, I tried a different time, I tried a summer course, none of it worked. And then I just decided to change universities. Even though I was going to U of T, I ended up taking the course. I think it was the different campus. I think I took it at Mississauga campus instead. Either that or Ryerson, I don't remember. So there are little tips and tricks that you can use to boost up your GPA. If there's a course that you know you will do well in, that you know other people have done well in, take that course if you can. For MCAT, what resources to use? I ended up getting a little bit lucky. I ended up getting Kaplan course material, the books, all of the books for MCAT preparation. And so I used those. They were helpful. I hadn't tried anything else, so it's hard for me to comment on what's good or what's not good. Having said that, I also ended up using a free resource. It was the Khan Academy videos, and they were a godsend. I don't know what they're like now, so don't quote me on it, but at that time when I did my MCAT, they were honestly amazing. They were amazing. I felt like they were telling me exactly what I needed to know, and they were in a video format, like someone was talking to me about it, and I learn best in that setting when someone's drawing and talking to me at the same time, and so that worked out pretty great. Now there are multiple resources. You can use free ones, you can use paid ones. The only thing I could say is do practice tests. Practice, 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 practice. Practice questions. If you are not doing well in your practice questions, your practice MCAT, you are not going to do well on the actual MCAT. All right, so far we've talked about volunteer, MCAT, GPA, required courses. Let's move right along and talk about the other requirements. References are going to be a big part of your application. Ideally, you need three references from people that you know and that you know you really well. So what do I mean by that? Can it be people from your family? No. Can it be people who are your friends or family friends? Absolutely not. Have people used family friends as references? Yes, they have. Is it the end of the world? No. If they have a different last name than you, you are safe. No one's gonna go digging into your past and see, oh my gosh, this is a 20-year connection here. What is happening? Ideally, you want to use people who have been part of either your volunteer activity or your courses or your research or your school team, just some sort of connection in the recent years based on some work that you have done. In the US, there are specific requirements for reference letters. So they often say, oh, one of these has to be a science letter. What they mean is either someone who has taught you a science course or has been your PI, as in your lead researcher, the person that you've done your research with, essentially. They also sometimes require letters from doctors that you have shadowed. This is the only time where I would say shadowing a doctor is important. Does it have to be for, a month or a year or any of that? No, you could literally shadow them for a couple of hours. And you can find plenty of doctors around the region that you are living in Canada, and ask them, hey, can I shadow you in your clinic for a couple of hours or a day? We get some experience, see what it's like in a clinic setting. And a lot of them will say yes. So the only other thing that I would mention for reference letters is some people are fast at providing you with the letter. Others are not so quick. So always ask early. If you know your application's due in May, for example, do it in March, April, do it way earlier than you actually need it, because they will take a month, 2 months, 3 months to get back to you. One of my professors took 6 months. At that point, I was not sure that they were going to write a good letter for me, and so I ended up not using the letter at all. And it's okay to keep hounding them. Be polite, be generous with your timeline, but let them know, hey, deadline's coming up. I'm just following up, just checking in to see if you had a chance to take a look at my request, had a chance to write up the letter. Please let me know if there are any other information that you need from me. Make sure to send them your CV as well when you're sending your request, just so they know what kind of things you've done. Yeah. All right, let's talk about research and publications. I tried research in my first and second year of undergrad, and I was a lab assistant in 2 separate labs, doing sort of similar projects, and I did not enjoy it very much. It was not fun. It was just boring. I could not care less about research, which sounds awful, but it helped me figure out what I didn't want to do in the future, and it was research. So I would say try your hand at it for sure. If you are able to get to a level where you do really, really well in a lab and you end up getting published, it doesn't have to be first author or second author, as long as your name is on some publication in some capacity. Yay! It's honestly great. If you can get 1 publication in your undergrad, your med school application goes from here right up to here. So is it important in that regard? Yes. For me, research was not part of it was part of my application, but it was not a big part of my application, and it was still okay. I still got a lot of interviews, I still got a lot of responses, invites, interview invites, and all of that. So It's not the end of the world if you don't end up loving research or don't end up doing it, but definitely try it. So let's go over the med school requirements one more time. Let's do a recap. As you can see on your screen, these are the things that we talked about already. So I won't rehash the topic of med school requirements. The only one that I will talk about, that I will talk more about, is the personal statement section. So you've submitted your application, and as we talked about the previous scenario, say your GPA is sitting at 3.2, your MCAT is sitting at 505, you've made past their screening stage, but again, those are not super strong numbers. What can save you from those numbers, like what can overcompensate for those numbers, is your personal statement. If you are a beautiful writer, you will have no problem coming up with words and ideas or what to write in your personal statement. If you are not, though, make sure to have someone help you out. It can be your English professor, it can be your English teacher from high school, it can be your friend who's good at editing, it can be your parents, it can be your uncles, aunties, whoever. Just ask people for help. Ask me for help. If I have time, I'd be happy to help. What to write in your personal statement. You have to answer the question of why medical school. It's just a it's a non-negotiable. You have to answer that question. Does it have to be very deliberate? The reason why I'm applying to med school is because I like science. No, it does not have to be that way. You can connect things to med school. So for me, I grew up outside of Canada. I grew up in Pakistan. I saw the medical system there, so I talked about that. Then I came to Canada. I saw the the medical system here. I talked about that. I had been a teacher before I got into med school, so I talked about my teaching experience. I had shadowed people. I'd worked in a hospital. I talked about that and how all of those life experiences sort of led me towards applying for med school, and all the skills that I developed in that time that would now be helpful for me eventually. So that's sort of the summary of what my personal statement looks like. They enjoy stories. Having said that, don't go on and on and on and on. If you can submit, like if it can just be a page, that is what you want. You want it to be a page. Is it more than a page? If it's more than a page, is that okay? Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, those are sort of the big hitters. Personal statement is extremely important. So start early, at least a month or 2 months in advance, so you have chances to edit it. Ask people who have already gone to med school, or people who are good at writing, so that they can help you out. They'll be able to help you out a lot more than someone completely non-associated to the entire process. So those are all the things that are part of the med school application requirements, as you can see on your screen. I know I mentioned all of them as part of the undergrad section, so there is not much to talk about the application requirement section itself. We pretty much talked about all of it. The only thing I will like to add here is the submission portion. So for the US applications, the place where you submit your applications is called MCAS or AMCAS. That's where you start your application, that's where you submit everything, that's where your references are submitted by your referees. Everything goes in there. And the biggest thing is the timeline, or the timing of when you submit your application. A lot of people mess that up, and it's such a silly mistake to make. It's a very common one to make as well. So there are two dates that you have to be very mindful of. There is the application opening date, and then there is the submission date. They are farther apart from one another. When the application opens, you do not have to submit at that time. You could, you don't have to. Now, the submission date, whatever that date is, I remember mine being in May, but this was years ago. So know what the submission date is and make sure, absolutely sure, that you are submitting your application the very first day possible. Could you submit it later on? Yeah, you could. Please don't do that. Submit it on the first day. And the reason I say it is because med schools download those applications within the first couple of days. And once they download or upload, or whatever the word is, on their end, they will not do so again until a month or 2 months later. And in that time, they'll be sending out the first interview invites or the first secondary applications. So you had better be in that first cycle of the applications being submitted. If you are not, you are at such a huge disadvantage. Most people do not get an interview in their second sort of application download cycle. So if you submitted, say, a week late, you are not getting an interview in the first two or 3 months. You may get it later, and that's okay. But as an international student, as a Canadian applicant, as a visa holder, those are not good things. That's not a good background to have. And then to submit your application late, even if it's a beautiful application, you are just not going to be in the first cycle, and that is not the position you want to be in. So that's the only thing that I would absolutely focus on. Make sure to make that submission date. So I realized while editing my video that I didn't actually end it. So this is it. And now the camera angle is different and the lighting is different. So yay for everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for watching. I hope you found the video to be helpful and enjoyable. If you have any questions at all, please make sure to comment them down below and I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. Otherwise, have a happy, healthy day and all of you take care. Bye-bye.